Students, what's the story of the worst teacher you've ever had? It was a Tuesday morning in middle school, one of those gray, slow-moving days that felt longer than they actually were. I was in science class with Ms. Reynolds, a teacher who had a habit of saying things with absolute confidence, no matter how questionable they were. That day, she was on a roll. The topic had somehow veered into a discussion about states of matter. She gestured toward the sand on the counter, a sample she had brought in, and declared with unwavering certainty, "Sand is a liquid." The room went quiet. I blinked, trying to decide if I'd misheard. "Sand is a liquid?" I repeated silently to myself. The other students shuffled uncomfortably in their chairs, some nodding as if agreeing, some staring at her like she'd lost her mind. I couldn't let it go, though. I raised my hand and she pointed at me expectantly, like she was daring someone to challenge her. I took a deep breath. "Well, if you can call sand a liquid because it pours, then technically you could pour bowling balls if you had a big enough container," I said, hoping to make a point about how absurd her claim was. A few students snorted, a few more laughed outright, and for a second it felt like the tension in the room broke. Ms. Reynolds didn't blink. Instead, she leaned back against her desk, one hand on her hip, and glared at me like I'd just committed a crime. "That's not funny," she snapped. "Sit down. That's disruptive." I hesitated, feeling a flush of embarrassment, but I did as she said. The class settled into an uneasy quiet again, the laughter dying down but the tension still lingering. 10 minutes later, mid-lecture, I sneezed. It was a big, loud sneeze, the kind that makes you feel slightly ashamed, but also like it's entirely involuntary. I instinctively muttered, "Bless me," but she froze, her eyes narrowing like a hawk spotting prey. "What did you just say?" she demanded. I blinked. "Bless me?" I replied cautiously. Her expression shifted to pure suspicion, her jaw tightening. "Don't lie to me," she said sharply. "I know what you just said. Go to the principal's office. Now." My stomach dropped. I tried to protest, stammering that I hadn't said anything inappropriate, that it was just a sneeze and an automatic response, but she waved me off with a sharp flick of her hand. "Don't argue. Go. Now." The walk to the principal's office felt surreal, each step heavier than the last. Other students were staring, some snickering quietly, some looking confused, all whispering. I felt a mix of humiliation, anger, and disbelief. When I arrived at the principal's office, I explained what happened, how it was a sneeze, how I'd only muttered, "Bless me," how I'd tried to make a point about sand not being a liquid. The principal raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical but trying not to laugh. "She really sent you here over that?" he asked. I nodded, my voice quiet but firm. He sighed and made a note in his log, telling me to go back to class. Returning to the classroom, I felt a mixture of relief and simmering frustration. Ms. Reynolds didn't acknowledge my return, continuing her lecture as if nothing had happened. But the classroom felt different now. There was a strange tension, a quiet whisper of disbelief that seemed to follow her around. The students were wary, unsure whether to laugh or just keep their heads down. That day stuck with me. The sheer absurdity of being sent to the principal over a sneeze, over a hand-raising, over simply questioning a statement highlighted how arbitrary some authority could feel. It wasn't just about being wronged. It was about how ridiculous power could be when wielded without thought. I remember the laughter in class when I made my bowling balls comment, the quiet whispering as I walked to the principal's office, and the feeling of standing there, trying to explain a perfectly innocent sneeze. It was maddening, surreal, and yet somehow formative. That moment cemented for me the idea that sometimes adults in positions of authority can be completely irrational, and that you learn quickly to pick your battles, or at least brace yourself for the next absurdity.